Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Love You, Live You podcast with myself, host Kathleen Heim. Before I get started with my amazing guest today, I want to just give a support for breast cancer awareness. It is October, so support to all those women and their families who have faced those challenges, and keep them in your memory and in your heart and in your minds and in your donations. So now to talk about my guest. From cleaning houses to filling houses, our next guest is a philanthropist and a Beyond Me Too activist. She is the jewel in the crown of the Pheiff Group Incorporated. With her distinctive voice, audiences everywhere know her. She is blessed from her work as a corporate CEO, award-winning speaker, podcaster, mentor, coach, and author. She is provocative, edgy, I'll attest to that, and brings a genuine humor to the platform. She is best known as the unstoppable diva, corporate executive turned media industrialist. Since founding the Pheiff Group Incorporated in 2007, she has become a social venture, entrepreneur, producer, and host of the Connie Pheiff Show, and founder of Talent Concierge, representing the world's most daring minds. She has authored 5 business books, 5. And coming soon is her most powerful book yet about her unstoppable life, and I cannot wait to read that book. Previously, the CEO of Girl Scouts of Penwood's Council, director of the United States Chamber of Commerce. Wow. She is a recipient of numerous community awards for her leadership and business acumen work, such as Los Angeles Community Leadership Award, Inspirational Woman in Media Award, Women's Economic Forum Women of the Year, ACHI Radio Host of the Year for 2019. Congratulations. Finalist for the 2018 Indie Author Legacy Award, and finalist for the ACHI Trailblazer and ACHI Mentor of the Year Award. And we're going to talk about an award that she actually received last night. She has been in the leadership roles with the National Speakers Association, Los Angeles, and with Toastmasters. Insight Success Magazine calls her a symbol of exemplary entrepreneurship. Connie always shares a bit of herself, and I think that's what makes her so unique and so inviting. A life of spectacularly epic fails. And through it all, her success hasn't come in spite of her failures, but because of them. And that's what we really want to focus on today in our talk. She leads the Talent Concierge Agency with heart, and her street creed is that she is disrupting the industry from the inside out. Told you she was a little bit edgy. Her motto is, no matter what platform you are on, when you touch a heart, you change a life. And when you change a life, we become unstoppable together. And welcome to the show, Connie Pheiff.
Thanks, Kathy. Thrilled to be here.
Well, I am thrilled to have a woman of your status on this show. So, and again, I want you to talk about your most recent award, but I really want to focus on, you said something, that I spoke about in your introduction, that your success did not come out with what you describe as epic fails. Can you share with the listeners what that means, epic fails? And
without sharing all the epic fails, there's been many. And a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs and women in particular, women are so afraid of being vulnerable, and they're really afraid of allowing other people to see them as less, for fear that they're going to be seen as weak, or they're not that leader, or they shouldn't be running that organization. I've been in leadership roles, again, from the Girl Scouts to the U.S. Chamber. My background is really very strong in business, but all through my career, I mean, starting off, out of high school, trying to figure out what it is that I was going to do, it's really important that we challenge ourselves. that we, if we have a dream, if there's something that we want to go after, or if we, we see somebody else and we really want to grow and have that inspiration, that aspiration to grow to what it is that you really want to be, you're not going to get there unless you challenge yourself. And the scary part is when you challenge yourself, that's the scary part. But the even further scarier part is that you're pushing yourself out of your boundaries. You're pushing yourself to go places that you've never gone before, because we're all afraid of change. We all have that fear of, oh, I don't know what that looks like on the other side. And if I go through this, there's likelihood that I'm going to fail at something. And you know what? You will. you you will. There will be failures. I guarantee. That's probably the only guarantee that I'll ever give to anybody, that you will fail. But those failures are going to help you learn how to go after what it is that you want. Because once you fail, it's like, okay, I failed. I know that that didn't work. Let's pivot. Let's look at this in a different way, in a different direction. And then when you do, that's when those successes will start.
So I love that you said that. So I do believe, like you, that failure is our biggest teacher, but people are so afraid of failure. They're so afraid of showing their vulnerability. And you said in specific women, and I agree with you. So why do you think, Connie, that people, women more specifically, why are they so afraid of being vulnerable? Why are they so afraid of failures?
Well, the biggest thing is, and like Sheryl Sandberg, I've read, her, she has a couple books and I've read them as well. And if I could even quote her, because she talks about how women, they don't challenge each other to be better. They actually look at other women as that competitor. And I truly believe that. Now I'm saying that, but I was at an award function last night and we actually had a conversation around this, where we really need to be creating that platform and championing that platform where women are lifting other women up. Look back historically, corporations, it was men that were at the helm. And even positions where it's mostly women that are doing it, like teachers or even hairdressers, or think of those or receptionists. But if you look at who's in charge of the schools, the administrators, even the receptionists, they all, big companies, they always have somebody that they report to besides their boss. They're all men. So so that was years past. So now women are really stepping in the role of leadership, whether it be corporations, having their own business, no matter what it is. And the opportunities, I'm going to say, were less. So if you have a position that's available and you have 20 men applying for it and 2 women, the women are going to fight each other because they're fighting for their right to stand firm in that position. And they don't want anybody else coming in to knock them out. Be it, it's not a man that they're worried about as their competition, it's the woman. But I'm starting to see a shift in that, where more and more women are coming forward and like I said, they're championing other women. And again, the event I was at last night was for women, women leaders, women in in certain positions. So I was really delighted to see that, and how the women were really there and achieving and also supporting each other in that way.
Well, I love to hear that. And it's true. So women, there is this threat about women. And I have to say, in the past, I was guilty. I was that person. I felt in competition with other women.
Yeah.
And it was so liberating when I came to that realization that, you know what, these aren't my opponents. These are my teammates. We're all in the same boat. So let's like lock arms and let's just kind of build strength around that. And that's part of my reason for this podcast, women helping lift other women up. And I do understand that, like what you said makes a lot of sense, that, there are, when you say there's all these positions and there's only one available and there's 2 or 3 women going for it, then of course there's going to be that competition. But you gave me goosebumps, when you said that about lifting, yeah, you did, about lifting each other up, because I really feel that is a very positive energy that we're spreading, and it's time to create a change. It's time to lift each other up versus like what do
Mhm.
they say all the time? Don't rip off her crown, straighten it. And
Right.
yeah, and I
Mhm.
firmly believe in that. Straighten your crown because what it's all the way the energy flows. It all comes back to you,
Mhm.
and we're really in the same boat. It's not. I don't want to say it's a movement. It's not like a burn the bra thing exactly, but
No, and that's not who I am. And actually, when I did my women's program, I started a women's program about a year or so ago, and it was shortly after the first Women's March. And women, they were calling me because I stand up, and like I said, I'm an advocate for the Beyond Me Too, and I could put my name on that list 10 times over, for things that have happened as a child and through my career as well. But I don't believe that we need to plant our feet in quicksand, that you can't move forward. We need to move beyond that. So when that march had happened, I actually was challenged on that, and there were women that I knew, marching and burning their bras, and they're like, oh, we're going to go topless, and they were part of my organization. So I pushed back on it, and I said, no, that's inappropriate behavior. You are acting, you wearing a vagina on your head, for goodness sakes. Like, how are you going to be taken seriously with the vagina on your head? Come on. So again, I got challenged, and somebody saying to me, well, you're a feminist because of how I talk about it, and I share about it, and I share it on my show as well. I said, no, that's not what I said. I am not. I still want a man to open my door for me. I still want to be respected. And that's why you will never see me wearing a vagina.
But you know what, Connie, you make me laugh all the time. But I have to say, like, I agree with you. Just because we, as women,
Mhm.
have something to contribute to society other than our femininity,
Yes,
doesn't mean like we're a man or we want to be a man. We do.
right.
We want to be feminine. I don't want a vagina on my head either. So,
Right.
and I do want the door open.
Mhm.
I just want to. What I'm saying is, whatever it is to you as a woman, to anyone as a
Mhm.
woman, just to have equality in that. You don't
Yes.
have to change your, the way you think. You don't have to change your
Mhm.
sexuality or your sensuality in order to have equality. Just acknowledge, that
Yes.
women can be successful also
Mhm.
without burning
Right.
bras and putting vaginas on their head. And I'm going to ask you to go a little bit deep here.
Ooh.
If you're okay with it, if you're not, you can just let me know. So you talk
Mhm.
about being part of the Me Too movement
Mhm.
based on at least 10 times that you could be a victim of that.
Mhm.
And are you willing to share, maybe just an experience you've been through and how it felt and how you were able to overcome it? Because our listeners, um, they come from, they're all shape, sizes, colors, religions,
Mhm.
races, and I'm sure a lot of them have experienced something similar. And I think it's
Mhm.
really important that somebody like you who's able to be a voice for those
Mhm.
persons speak to maybe what you went through and maybe some advice or of how somebody in a similar situation will
Mhm.
be able to help overcome those challenges in order to move forward, like you talked
Right.
about moving forward.
Right, right. And I mean, sometimes people can't. Gosh, which one do I go to? Um, and that's why I always say there's, so many. I mean, as a child, I grew up living with a woman who I called grandma, my grandmother, and there was abuse by family members, sexual, physical, they just felt that, they could have their way with me, and I never understood why. And I would think, well, that's my father, that's my uncle, that's the neighbor. Like, why do they think that they can do this to me? And I was the oldest of 20 grandchildren, and 13 of them would come to the house every day. And my responsibility wasn't to get a straight A in school. It was to take care of them, feed them, make sure the house was cleaned every morning, get them to school at lunchtime, get the ones home for the afternoon class, and feed them dinner, make sure the parents had their meals. And so, when all of the other abuse was happening, it was like, okay, I guess that's part of what I have to do too. And I was the rebel in the family, and I just, I stuck out as a sore thumb, and I just never knew why I was that round peg trying to fit, into that square hole. So the grandmother, the woman I lived with, she wanted me to quit school at 16. And I prayed and prayed and prayed that I didn't want to quit school. And my studies were extremely important to me because in my mind, finishing school was going to be my way out. And so I was even cleaning the neighbors' houses and babysitting, and I was ironing men's shirts and whatever it took to pay the rent, and in addition what we got for watching the cousins every day. But she died 2 weeks before my 16th birthday, and to this day I say it was an answer to my prayers because I didn't quit school. Although for the rest of my time in high school, I was pretty much a couch surfer, staying at a friend, staying at an aunt, staying here, staying there. But I put myself through school. I ended up being on the honor roll. I became, pom poms, and I went from one extreme to another. But at the same time, I also wasn't healthy because I didn't heal from all of the abuse and everything that had taken place. So fast forward several years, I get married at 19. A couple years later, I had my daughter, then my son a few years after that. And my son was 3 months old when I walked out of their father's house. I walked out of the house and said, I'm done. And because I started feeling suffocated. I started feeling that this was not the life that I wanted. I designed it. We owned a house, we had the white picket fence. So, I participated in the design of all of that, but it was not what I wanted. And I walked out with absolutely nothing with my 3-year-old daughter and my 3-month-old son and said, I'll figure it out. And so, got into some really bad relationships, married again for 3 months. And Kathy, I don't even know if you know this. I married again after that for 4 months.
I did not know.
I didn't think you did. Jeff is actually my 4th husband. But after Gene, Fred, and Carlo, Gene was my baby's daddy. Carlo was my Italian stallion. I have names for each of them that I don't talk about. I didn't talk about for the longest time. I kept it hidden. And Fred was in the Coast Guard, and he's the one that took me away. So, but like I said, with those two, it was the, total mistakes, total rebound, or whatever you want to call it. I was still looking for Mr. Right, as I would say, or Mr. Goodbar, as I would say. But then there was a movie out, and they made that movie about me,
and so many others, right?
right. So, so after Fred, and he started stalking me, and it was just a horrible time in my life. But then I just said, okay, there has to be something different. This is not the life I want. I have to stop letting people touch me because, again, that's all I ever knew. And so I say my 20s, it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. By the time I was 30, I put an end to all of it. And I actually went to the diocese, and because they had a program for single, divorced, and widowed women. And a woman that I was working with suggested that I go there because she knew what was going on. And I went through the program myself for a whole year. And then through that, I became a facilitator, and then I became a counselor. And then that took me down the path of going back to school for my degree. And all during that time, with my son and daughter by my side. And then I was working at my family's restaurant. So I was working there at night. I was going to school. I was working full time. And then I had a breakdown because there was no me time. It was me time in a sense of I was trying to heal myself, but I still was not doing it the way I needed to do it to get clarity of what had happened and taken place in my life. I still didn't see it as abuse. I still seen it that was normal. That's how everybody lived. And then I got same woman that I'm talking about. She gave me a promotion at work. Like she's seen something in me that I didn't. And so with that promotion, I became community involved in a community. And I remember I having to go to the country club for one of our events. I got to the door of the country club and it froze. And, and her name's Mary. And she's like, "What's wrong?" I can't go in there. And she's like, "Why?" I don't belong in there. I don't belong in a country club. Why would anybody even take me seriously with where I come from and what I did? So, with the help of her, with the help of BE, it was called Beginning Experience. The biggest advice that I can give people listening to this is you do need to seek out help, because you cannot do it alone. And that's why my tagline is that we're unstoppable together, because we are. And you cannot. So for 11 years, I stayed single. I devoted my time to my kids. I stopped going to school. I continued working because I needed to pay mortgage. I continued doing that. I built up, my business. And again, eventually I did go back to school. Well, I didn't go back to school yet, but I met my now husband. And I was just like an open book. This is who I am. This is what I've done. If you don't like it, go away. I don't want I don't want to date any, boys. And then actually I one of the things I learned about, create a dream inventory. So I had a dream inventory. One of my dream inventories was that I would date no cavemen, is what I called them. I wanted a suit guy. I wanted a man that was going to respect me for me and not want me for sex. And I had a whole list. I did not want them to be from Northeast Pennsylvania because, in my mind, everybody there was just negative. And so I met my husband, and that's exactly who he is. He was not from Northeast PA. He is a suit guy. Total opposite of me. I'm rock and roll. He's symphony. Like we are total opposites that way, but we connected and it worked. So, again, I continued with my school, and I just had this drive inside of me that no one was going to stop me. This is what I was going to do. Again, went back to school. I ended up getting, well, actually, I worked my way through Girl Scouts, went to DC with Jeff, and I got the job at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And again, I was in shock that I got the job as director of development. And then within 3 months, I got promoted. Well, actually, I started as manager, and I was promoted to director of development within 3 months. So no matter what I've done or what I've gone after, I've really worked hard to make it work. Now, have there been those failures? Absolutely. And they all came along with that. So I'm just, I've shared a couple of them. But, for all of your listeners, I mean, if you're going through something, just work through it. I mean, that's the best advice I can give someone. When you work through it, you are going to be a stronger person for it. My book that I'm working on now, The Unstoppable Story of Connie Pheiff, is about a lot of what we're talking about here. And I've been interviewing women. I've interviewed over 50 professional women, whether they be an executive, whether they be business owners. Every single one of them, except one, would either say they came from the other side of the tracks. There was always someone in their life who believed in them. They, just felt that they had this internal drive. But 49 out of 50 women saying, yes, I've had a challenge in my life that really pushed me to work harder for what I have. That 50th person, her life sense has changed because her husband died at the age of 38. He died in an accident. I haven't spoken with her since, but I know she's back at it with her business. And from what I understand, she's even a stronger woman now. So women tend to be stronger in it because they're working harder to get to that top space that they're looking for. Not saying that men don't. I mean, men work, they work very, very hard as well. But that was the overarching theme that I got from interviewing over 50 women, that every single one of them, had something that they had to overcome, some type of challenge to overcome to get to where they are today. So again, for your listeners, if there's a challenge in your life, whether it be divorce or bankruptcy, or there's that job that you're just dying to get, unless it's a brain surgeon, then make sure you get all your credentials and all of your education. Go for it. Just go for it. And I always, education was very strong for me. So I have five children. All five have their master's degrees. One is working on his PhD. So if I've instilled anything in my kids, it's make sure you have your education because it just makes it so much better. And then when I eventually went back and I got my degree, I got finished my bachelor's, and I got my master's degree. At that point, it was almost like I could have taught these classes. But what it has done, what it did, it just gave me that confidence that I know that I can do it. And I was able to complete it and accomplish it.
Wow. So through your conversation with the audience, I went through a range of emotions. I actually had tears through part of when you were speaking. And at 16, you were going to quit school.
Yeah.
Before the age of 16, you have multiple degrees. And what I see from that is that your past does not determine your destiny.
No.
Does not determine your destiny. And something that you spoke to is about, challenges, and how that you interviewed 50 women and they've all been through challenges. So I do believe that that struggles equal success.
Yeah.
Without them, we kind of tend to stay status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And yes. One thing that really stood out to me that I want to share with anyone who's listening, you said of those 50 women that they had, although they had, challenges and struggles, they had someone to believe in them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna share with you that I had challenges and struggles, and I didn't have anyone to believe in me. So I put that all on myself. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have that person, believe in yourself.
Yes.
Change, make a decision. If you have a challenge, you make a decision mm-hmm. that you want change, and then take action. I talk about that in my book, The Rule of Nines. But when you decide you want something, why do you want it? And how are you going to get there? And take action, and you'll get there. I promise you.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I always said that I had no one in my corner. Even when I was working on this book, I had a ghostwriter working with me, because initially it was very emotional, and I wanted to write it not so much emotion, but then I've learned that it's better if I do write it with emotion so other people can learn. Because the intent of the book is not to be a victim, but it is to help other people learn and to lift other people up, specifically women. And she kept asking me, but who was your role model? Who helped you? Who was your supporter? And I kept saying, no one. Like, it was me. I just had that internal drive. Like, I can't put, my finger on somebody specifically. But what I did, like BE, there were people there that were supporters. The woman I worked with, Mary, I would never say that she was my mentor, or you know what though? She guided me, even with that one conversation. So it's also be open, be aware, because there are people around you. Although, like for me, I just felt always like people were looking at me and judging me. And you know what? They're really not.
You were judging yourself.
We judge ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right. No one cares that you went to the country club.
What do they say? We're our own worst critic. And I believe that. We look at we find everything that possibly wrong. So let's look at something right,
Right. I know. We do that. We put that pressure on ourselves, and there is no need to do that. There really isn't.
Would it be, I wonder what it would be like to see ourselves through someone else's eyes. Like we only look in the mirror and we
Oh,
just tear ourselves apart. What is it? How
yes.
do other people see us? Probably not even close to as critically as we do,
No, right.
right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, there's so many things I want to talk to you about. So, but you brought up the book, and
Mm.
is this a book that's going to be out soon, or?
It's not until the spring. It's been a couple of years in the works. When I first started writing it, it's been a couple of years now. And the reason why it hasn't, I'm very comfortable writing business books. I actually have 8. There's 5 published on Amazon. I have 3 others that I've written. I use them more so for internal working with some of my clients. But writing a book about yourself is it's harder.
It's like ripping off your clothes in the mall, during Christmas
Right.
holiday shopping, right? You're
Right.
very vulnerable, and not only are you
Yes.
vulnerable for your own self and your soul,
Yes.
people. You and I have talked about this. People in our lives, they don't
Yes.
like you to bring that out there. People, they want to
Yes.
sweep it under the rug, and
Yes. So imagine. So the one thing that happened, um, I guess I'll give it away. It'll be in the book. 6 years ago. So with all of that abuse, everything that was going on, why did I live with a grandmother? Why this? Why this? I had a lot of questions, and I would never get any answers. Well, just 6 years ago, I found out the answer, and it was because I was adopted. The My dad was not my real father. The uncles were not my real uncles. The woman I lived with was not my grandmother. And I just found this out a couple of years ago. So I have since found out who my real um, paternal side of the family is. And I actually have more siblings, brothers and sisters, that I never knew about that I just met within the last couple of years. And finding all of that out just gave me so much clarity because I put a lot of pressure on myself over the years. I had a lot of guilt over the year. Why did I not get along with my family? Why did I always feel like I was the outcast? Well, it finally answered knowing that. So I started writing the book, and like I said, it was very very emotional. So I started working with the ghostwriter. So 3/4 of the book is done. And then about 2.5 years ago, I took a little break from business because I was sick myself. I was out speaking nonstop, and it affected my health. It affected my voice, and actually lost my voice for over 6 months. Imagine that as a speaker, not having a voice. And
especially
uh,
you.
yeah, right.
You got a lot to say, Connie. A lot of good things. I can't imagine you being zipped.
And not having a voice. Yeah.
Right.
So I and my husband was in California, and of course we were moving to California, and fortunately, because that's how you and I met. But so anyway, I get sick, so I decided, okay, I'm going to take some time. I healed. It took about 2 years. I had about 9 surgeries in 2 years. I had collapsed lungs and sorts of medical things. All healthy now. But as I was healing, my birth mother got sick, and and that was about the time I was writing the book as well. And I'm certain I got sick. The sickness was stress because of what I had found out about being adopted and why the abuse happens. And I truly believe that caused me to get sick more so than being on the road so much. But my mom got sick, so during that time, so I took that break to spend it with her. And I could that's when she came clean and told me, who I really was. And I promised her that I would not publish the book while she was still here living. But she did pass. And it's been 2 years now that she's passed. So my publisher is like, okay, what the hell are we doing with the book? So I will get it completed. But it's just like you said, there, even if I change the name to protect the innocence, people are going to know who I'm talking about. So that has been the challenge. How much do I share? So I'm going to share just enough to share my message without really going, to what really happened. But and then we'll let it go from there. That's why I had promised my mom I wouldn't publish it until after she was gone.
Connie, you've been through so much and you're just, to me, such an inspiration. I'm sure you're an inspiration to so many women out there. And I look so forward to reading your book and when it's done. And I understand why you can't share every detail, but I think it'll help so many people because there's so many things that are just swept under the rug.
Yeah.
Taboo. We don't talk about them. And to go through all that, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, everything you went through, and then to find out that's not even your birth family. Right. Although they raised you, I'm sure they have their best intent.
Right.
And how many people out there feel that they're alone in that situation? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But your ability to find that internal strength and that positive attitude and that fortitude to move forward and be the best you. And also, while you're doing that, it's not just about you, you're uplifting other people, unstoppable together. I want you to share about your award last night because I want to hear about it and I'm super excited for you. But I also want to share with you about your Unstoppable Together and what you've created and why, where that came from.
Okay.
And what you're doing with that.
Well, the award, I was nominated. How you pronounce it is Achi magazine publication for women leaders.
Well, I slayed that one.
Well, trust me, until I heard it last night, I didn't know it myself. Like, thank goodness somebody else.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes. So, I mean, I knew, I got a notice several weeks ago that I was nominated and I'm one of the finalists for woman back there for Woman of the Year, Podcaster of the Year, and Business Leader of the Year. So there were several. So I won the top award last night for Radio Host of the Year.
Woo!
And I was so honored. I was, so it was in Baltimore. And I actually was kind of, because we've been, a lot of things going on. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I had, we had friends who wanted to come visit for the weekend. And then I was like, well, you're welcome to stay at the house, but I really got to go to this award. And so I wasn't even prepared with an acceptance speech. Mentor of the Year. That was the other. So when I got there, and like I said, when they called out my name and said that, I was just honored to receive that. But the one thing I learned, and if I could share this, all of the work that I've done for myself, on myself, everything that I do, I want to pay forward. I want to give back. And somebody told me a long time ago when I first started my own business, was that don't tell people what you do, show them. And I would be like, well, I got to tell them what I do. How do they know what I'm going to do if I don't tell them what I do? But if you really think, and I finally got it, and if you really think about it, if you go in telling people, oh, well, this is what I do, and I'm like, and people are kind of like, yeah. But when you really show them what you do, they take notice. And of course, our children, whenever they say something, that moves us, and we're a combined family. So my daughter, She's our oldest, and we had our challenges as mother and daughters do over the years. But the last couple of years, she actually has given me bracelets and, with sayings on it and poetry that she's written all about the one. Oh my gosh, who says it? She said she would. She said she would, and she did. And my daughter gave me she sketched it. She's an artist, and she sketched that for me. But and then again, receiving the award yesterday, and it was a all women's group as well. What really fills my heart is that people do really take notice, from our children that we don't think are paying attention to people around us, because even as a radio host, even when I was speaking, you always question yourself, am I really making a difference? And that's always my goal, my intent. Am I making a difference? And you talked about, be unstoppable together. And for years, people would tell me, oh my God, you're unstoppable. You're unstoppable. The divorce and this and this and this. And I would just kind of like, yeah, okay. And then, maybe when I first really started in this business and trying to think about who am I, what do I do, and what do I offer to other people, the one thing that came to me is that, yeah, okay, I'm unstoppable. And of course, everybody's using that word now. It's like the buzzword. But I don't want to be unstoppable. I want us all to be unstoppable together. Because and you read it at the beginning, I just feel that even with our agency earlier this year, I had received, like I said, people are taking notice this year. Last night was like the 6th award I've received this year. I've been on magazine covers, and I mean, just want to be humble about it. But and people, coming out and saying we're disrupting the industry because of how we do our agency, and how the agency even started was when I was sick, and because I had collapsed lungs, and then my breathing, still, I don't have the energy like I used to. And I still have a lot of energy, but I don't have the energy like I used to. So I thought, okay, what can I do to change this? And I also had another business, which was a speakers bureau, who I had somebody else running. And I thought, I see a lot of speakers out there. I see a lot of executives and people who are just struggling and really haven't found their way and where they need to go. And I do meditate a lot, and I'm also very intuitive, as you know. And just a lot of things started coming to me that I needed to help these people. They've gotten to a point where they have found success, but they're stuck, and they're like, okay, I don't know where to go from here. So what I did, I decided I was going to take the Jerry Maguire approach, and I wanted an agency, and I stepped in to take over the agency. So I cleaned house. I didn't want hundreds of people, in our stable, so to speak. I wanted people that I wanted to work with that were very dedicated, who had a mission, who had a focus, who had a goal of giving back and helping and serving other people. Earlier this year, we were named the agency with heart, and that's how the heart came to be, because again, somebody noticed it, and we got an award calling us the agency with heart. And in that same, it was by professional event planners at their annual meeting, and naming us the agency with heart because we're disrupting the industry, because we're not a speakers bureau. We work with our talent. Because I bring so much to it. I have a very strong business background. I really enjoy the mentoring piece of it, and that was my other award nomination for last night. And that we need to be there to help and support each other, whether it's women, whether it's men. We need to be there to help and support each other. And when I was named the agency with heart, without realizing it, I said, oh, that's how I designed it. And I didn't realize that intent was in there. But then after that happened, and I went, that's exactly how I want it to be. And that's why I call it the Jerry Maguire approach, because of very, very close, very hands-on. I want everyone to succeed. And I will give everything that I have to share, including the failures, to say, well, yeah, if you want to go try it, go ahead, but you may be jumping off a bridge, because I know that don't work. So, but sometimes it could work for somebody else. So it's, again, it's a lot of those conversations, making sure you're hanging out in the right place and making sure you're growing the business that you want to be growing.
And Connie, you're truly that. That's an agency with heart, is because you're a woman with heart. And I think that that's out of all your accolades and all your awards and all your successes and degrees, that is what makes you stand out from the rest. And I have to share that I met Connie on a whim. I think it's a spiritual connection, because I'm too a meditator, believing, trying to help people out. And we met at a health conference by chance.
Mm-hmm.
And Connie was able, and it's so funny, because I met her on a Wednesday. On a Sunday night, I had a dream. I wrote my book, The Rule of Nines. I woke up, I wrote it on a Monday. I printed it out, and I met her on a Wednesday. Like, here's my book. You want to read it? And I have a vision, to help people.
Mm-hmm.
And Connie was amazing. She didn't laugh at me with all her accolades. She didn't poo-poo me with her status. She read it. She spent time talking to me. She brought me into her family. So I'm part of that agency with the heart. Within 6 months, my book was published by a publisher. I am speaking, a keynote speaker. I have a podcast show. I've done a lot, but I wouldn't, I just needed, when you say you need that person to believe in you,
Mm-hmm.
I met Connie, and Connie believed in me. And with all my challenges, and she knows what they are, she's got a big enough heart to open up her heart to help me fulfill my dreams. And it's bringing tears to my eyes. And I know we're wrapping up towards the end of the show, and I'm so thankful and proud to have Connie on the show. And it's not the last time I'm going to have her, but I want to make sure, Connie, everybody knows. Well, before I ask that question, however, you can get in touch with me, I want to make sure I want to make sure people know how to reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I had so many other questions. That's why we have to have a follow-up show when your book's out. But how do you, Love You, Live You, my podcast?
Right.
And I think you've answered it, but summing it up in a few words,
Mm-hmm.
how do you love you, live you?
How do I love you, live you? It took me a while to love me. And living the way I did, again, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, you're not loving yourself. You're just numb. You're just going through the motions of day to day and hoping that you wake up the next day. I learned how to love me. One of the biggest learnings that I found, and it's something very, very simple, very, very simple. Someone said to me, Mary, I should probably give Mary more credit than I do. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. And I sat with that. And I remember it was New Year's Day, and my kids weren't home. They were with their dad, and everybody kept calling, family, even my ex, who I've become very good friends with, calling saying, are you okay? Are you okay? You're by yourself. Like you're a person that does not like to be alone. And I'm like, I need to be alone. I need to be alone with myself. And that was a challenging day. Like I said, I still remember it. It was New Year's Eve. I forced myself to be alone that day. It was almost like a detox of not, going out and finding somebody and having sex and drinking. And it was really a detox to me just to be alone that day. And I started doing it as an annual ritual for me on New Year's Day, because the rest of the year, it was, you're busy with kids and working and school. But that one day a year I took for myself, that was my baby steps to learn to love me. And then from there, I started doing it more often. And even now, I still have my time, and my husband and I have our time on Saturdays. I still have my time in the morning, whether it's meditating or working out or exercising or, or something. That's still my time. And I learned, and I started reading self-help books, but I learned to love me. So to live you, love me through that process.
Thank you for sharing. And it's an amazing, amazing transformation when you actually get to that point. We're so busy,
Yeah.
people like yourself, pleasing others, living for others. So I'm so happy to hear that you're, with all that you're doing for everyone else, you're still loving you and living you. It's so important, all you listeners, to love you and live you. Connie, how do people get in touch with you? How do they get your
Well,
books, reach out, your websites?
Well, they can Google Connie Pheiff, Pheiff. I know no one ever gets that spelling right, but it's Connie Pheiff, Pheiff. And I won't tell you all the names. My son always jokes, Mom, can you tell me all your names? No. But you could find me everywhere. I'm on Amazon, Connie Pheiff. Again, just go to Amazon, Connie Pheiff Books. All the books will pop up. You can learn about the agency, which is talentconcierge.co, C-O. And you can learn a lot more about me on there as well.
Okay, well, I just am so thankful, Connie, for having you on the show. I just absolutely love everything about you and what you're doing for everybody else, and having this opportunity for you to share even more some of the stuff I didn't even know about you with the world, basically. That's really, really paying it forward, because it's giving people hope. And it's all about, like you said, it's about, bearing yourself, like getting naked in the mall at Christmas
Yeah.
time, just showing your soul, because that way people realize they're not the only one, because so many times people feel isolated.
Yeah.
They don't feel like anyone understands. And just to know, hey, I'm not the only one. And then there's somebody who's been through it, and they can share, okay, so here's how I got through it. So maybe that can help you. And I
Yes.
really appreciate everybody who's joined us today on loveyouliveyu.com. And we're all about lifting each other up. Again, thank you, Connie. And until next time, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kathy.